Hey everyone, Daniel here from Twin Bytes with another quick tutorial for you. This time on Microsoft Word, a little introduction to it. This is the Microsoft Word 2019, which is part of the Office 365 package. If you were to get the standalone version of 2019, it would be the same product, but with the Office 365, you're constantly being updated. First thing when you open Word, you're going to have this screen here where you can select from doing a blank document or a series of templates and even more templates. You'll also have a list of all the recent documents that you'd opened in the past. If you pinned anything, it would be found in here, and also if you're using the online experience, you can share files with each other and you'd be able to find any files that someone shared with you over here. If you go to create a new document, it again asks you if you want to do a blank one or one of many different templates that you can browse by category or just type in here to search for something. That's the same thing as from the home screen. You've got the blank and the templates. You can go down to open and select from your documents folder one of the recent ones that you've done. You can look at the folders in your documents, or you can go through OneDrive shared with you. You've got this PC where you can browse your folders, or in this browse option you've got the traditional view of browsing through Explorer to find your documents. What we're going to do is create a new blank document here. It might come up by default with the navigation here on the side. This hasn't done this before for me, so I've seen it once or twice in the past, so you may see this, so you can just X out of that if necessary. So from in here, you're on the Home tab. You might not be used to this depending on what version you came from, but everything is under tabs, so depending on which heading you click at the top, you'll see different options here to choose from. Most of the time you're working within the home screen and you'll be adding content in here and modifying things from in here. So you can paste and do your basic cut, copy, and so on. You got your bold, italic, underline, your different type of fonts and the size of the font, and all these options here that should be familiar to you. They've got special type fonts that you can choose from, and of course the colors and other options that all revolve around the fonts in here. You've also got your justification for paragraphs, bold or numbering, and the bullets. You've also got the indentation options and other resizing options and things that revolve around the paragraph options. There's also styles in here which you can select from, which come in handy when you want to modify something and make a change on a global level. It'll help if I have some content in here first, so I'll just pause the video and add some stuff in here quickly. Alright, so now that I got some information in here, we want to make use of the style formatting. So if we select header 1, there's an option here to change this into the style formatting of header 1. We'll go ahead and select each one of our headers and change that formatting. So they're all set as a header 1. So instead of going through and changing the size and the color and all that on each one individually, we would just make it a header format. So if I wanted to change the color and anything else on this, I wouldn't have to highlight each one by one and do that. I can just go up here, right click on that style, and I can go into modify it. And then from here, I've got my color right there, and if I want to say maybe make this purple, and I can change the formatting. Maybe let's go with something kind of outstanding here, and maybe make it a little bit bigger as well. And then we'll OK that, and you can see here that the header now stands out and it's been updated for each one of them. We've got a secondary header, whatever you want to call it. I've got these as sections. So I've got heading 2, I'm going to call that heading 2 and I'm going to put that on each one of these. Again, now that we've got the header 2 set and we did it by the style, we can modify that heading 2 style, and I'm going to go with our company colors, and maybe we'll do something like this, and we'll keep the size as it is, and now you can see that stands out. We've got all our other text, and you can see when I click into it here, it's highlighted as normal. If I click on the section 1, it highlights heading 2, and if I click on header 1, it highlights heading 1. So we know that we've got that's the type of style. So if I wanted to change my text throughout here, I can right click on this, go into modify, and normally I like Verdana. I don't I seem to stick with that. I think the size is fine. We'll go with the automatic coloring and okay that. So that's updated the font, and you can see I did have it on 2 different lines. Now that I've changed the font, it's gone and made it bigger, so it goes between 2.5 lines. So I could go in and modify the font size if I wanted on that and try and perfect this just right. Or if I say, you know what, I'm just going to put it back the way it was, there's an undo button up here. If you hover over it, it says undo style. You could press Control Z or just hit that button and it undoes the changes that we made. So this will be fine here. So if we go in to create a new section, then it knows to use that type of text, even though I clicked in beside it here and start typing in something else. So this makes it real handy when you're trying to work with sections. There'll be some other stuff we'll be able to see in a moment when we come back to that. You've got an easy way to find content. So if you're looking for a certain word in here, you can find that here, and it highlights it and gives you a count of how many words there are with that in there. You can also replace, so anything that's one word that you find, you can replace it with something else, and you can find the next one and replace them one by one, or replace everything all at once. There's also additional information in here. If you want it to really fine-tune your search, you can do it by here matching the case to find specifically what it is you're looking for, and a few other options as well. There's even special characters, so if you're looking for spaces and paragraphs and tabs and you want to replace a double tab with a single tab or that sort of thing, then you can insert from here and it'll put in the character for what that is. So if we have 2 tabs, then we may have to copy and paste that to put it in twice, and then say if there's 2 tabs in a row, we want to replace that with a single tab, and then you can replace all instances of that very easily right from there. There's also a dictation field here. If we click on here, it wants to make sure that you have this enabled first before you can start using it, because it is considered a privacy issue, and it tells you can go into File, Account, and Account Privacy Settings, and then you'd be able to allow this from in here, and then you can start making use of that feature. There's an editor button as well, and it gives you a count of your spelling errors, grammar, and other information about the document that could help you to make it look a lot more professional if you're presenting this to someone. And it's kind of funny that I've got a lot of blah 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 in here, and it's not picking up anything about grammar or conciseness, but nobody said this was perfect, but it does give you some information which is very helpful. if we were to do something here with some spelling mistakes, and it will give you underlines. This one here, it fixed itself automatically. It just made an assumption instead of underlining it. But here what you can do is right click on it and it tells you it's a spelling mistake, and then you've got the correct spelling here, but there's also a couple of other options in case that's what you really meant because you were really off the mark on your spelling at that time. So you can just click on it, or if that is correct and this is a new word and it's not in the dictionary, you can add it to the dictionary, or you can even tell it to ignore all instances of that word in this particular report because it's an odd one. You don't necessarily want to add it to the dictionary, but you don't want it to bug you about a spelling mistake throughout the entire document, so you can just ignore all of them. I'm going to click on this and it'll correct it for me. This one is very weird, so it's going to give you some other words as well that it thinks it might be, but if it's none of those, you might want to just go in there and correct it yourself manually. On the Insert tab, you can do things such as a cover page, another blank page, or setting a page break, which is very cool. If we go in here beside header 2 and I say page break, it jumps it right down to a second page. So instead of having to press enter going all the way down, I just needed to insert a page break and it puts it as a new page. I'm going to undo that and put it right back so they're all together again. You can also go in here and add a table, and you can set your table as many columns and rows as you want, and just once you have it where you want, just click on that and you can start adding information in through each one of those cells. And you can change the style as well, because once you have a table in here, we got a new tab that appears that wasn't here before. So there's a whole bunch more information that's targeted around the table design itself. Continuing on with the Insert tab, you've got pictures that you can insert. So I've just inserted a picture, and you can see that it brings up another new tab called Picture Format. And there's, of course, a series of options around this that you can play with and see how that works. And some of the features may not work the way you expect them to based on the color scheme and how the picture was taken. So you can experiment with those and see how they are. But it does have some pretty cool features with picture styles, borders, effects, layout, alternate text, the positioning of it, if you're wrapping text around the picture. So when you're typing something, text beside the photo, and it's not really beside it, you can go in to modify how you want the text to wrap, and you'll see that depending on what you choose, it moves the text around it. And then you may have to press enter a few times to get down and then have that there. And then line everything up properly the way you want it. So from the pictures, you've also got shapes that you can add in of different types, icons, models, smart art, which is pretty cool. You can have different kind of charts and lists, processes, cycles. They have a whole series of categories of things, and within that you've got a bunch of options. And then once you select something that you might like to use, then you've got options again with another tab that comes up giving you styles, colors, and things like that that you can choose from. There's a lot of options to go through here that we're going to skim through, but you can insert videos, links to websites, and create bookmarks, which is very cool. If you had something here that you wanted to link to, you can create a bookmark. There can't be any spaces in it, but we have a bookmark here now that if we want it to link to that, then you can make use of a place in this document, and we just created a bookmark so we can find that here to link to. But because we also have headers, header 1s and header 2s, they're automatically created as links, so you can link to those. But if you wanted something specific that's not one of those that are included automatically, you can create the bookmark and link to that. So clicking on a link like this would jump you to that part of the document. You can add comments, headers and footers, page numbers, text blocks if you want it to have a block of text that is anywhere on the page, and of course a series of formatting options within that. As you can see, there's so many options. The more things you click on, the more options that appear that you didn't see at first glance. Going into the design is a whole other thing now, where you can choose from a whole bunch of different themes that affects everything overall, and as we hover over them, it gives you a bit of a preview, so you can see it's changing my colors, my fonts, on some of the things at least anyway, the font style, the font size, and it shuffles some things around as well, so then they might not line up exactly the way you had them before, so you may have to modify things afterwards. So you might want to pick a theme before getting started, but then you may not know what it looks like until after you do this. Personally, I like having more manual control over it, and then working with the styles over here, and then you can modify those. So they also have other options in here as well. The watermark is pretty cool. You can actually select from one of the options that they have in here, or you can find other watermarks online, or you can actually create your own custom watermark and insert that. So that watermark would be displayed across every single page that you have. In the layout, you can change the text direction from the normal default horizontal to something vertical. You've got the margins that you might want to play with, orientation if it's portrait or landscape, and if you're doing a letter size, legal size, or an envelope you're printing onto, or some other type of format size. Columns you can actually change as well, from a 1 to a 2, and then it starts going down the page on the first column and then works its way over to the second column and starts going down there. So columns could be very interesting depending on what kind of document you're working on. The breaks, we've seen a page break before, but there's also many other options that you can work with in here. More paragraph options, positioning and wrapping of text, which goes back to working around photos. References is very cool. If you're doing a document especially for school, you can do a whole bunch of different things with this. So if I add a space at the top here, I can create a table of contents and choose from one of the options here, and it'll manually create a table of contents for me, letting me know what page number it's on, what the name of our header 1 is, and the name of our header 2, our various header 2 sections that we've identified, and they're all clickable to jump to that section of the page. Right now they're all on page 1, so this doesn't look very impressive, but if we have it spread across multiple pages, it will automatically create this table of contents for you. You can also insert footnotes. So if you have an end of some text here, you can insert a footnote. And you can see here that we got a little number 1, just like you would see in any textbook. and if you were to click on that, it jumps you to the bottom of the page, and you can see that number 1 is, there's your footnote number 1. There's a few other things in here as well. When you're doing research, it can do a smart lookup, selecting text that you have, and it can search based on that, and other quotes and citable sources, images, all online based on what you select, and tell it to search automatically for you. You can insert citations right from here, manage the sources where you want it to search, and a whole bunch of other options in here. With mailings, this is if you're doing envelopes and letters, and you can do a mail merge. This will be a whole other thing that we can make a video on doing a mail merge. So let me know in the comments below if you want any specific areas of Word that we can go into in an advanced video, or any other program for that matter. Just let me know. I'd love to hear your feedback on what you guys are looking for. With the reviews, you can do a bunch of things from the editor we've seen already. There's a thesaurus, and even looking at your word count to see how many pages, words, and characters and so on that you have. So especially again for school, if you wanted to see how many word essay you have, you can see, do you actually have that many words? There's a speech, which has always been a work in progress, but you can see how that works for you. Especially the more clear you are in speaking, then you may get a better translation. More comments and tracking. The tracking is actually really good if you want to have a document and send that to someone to get them to modify it for you. You can tell it to track the changes, and then when you send this document, save it with the tracking turned on. If anyone else is going in here to make changes, it highlights them in a color and an underline, and then you can see who it was that made the changes and what date and time that was done. And then when you receive it back, you can accept the changes, or you can reject them, or skip it and move on to the next one and look at all the suggested changes because you were tracking them. In the view, you've got a few options here. I've seen people do this by accident where it's in read mode or web layout, and it looks a little bit odd, like a website here instead of a Word document. They're wondering what happened. Reading mode again, they're wondering what's going on here. Print layout mode is the standard view that you would see most of the time. You can take your time going through a lot of these options here, but we're going to skip ahead over to split and have a look at that. This allows you to look at two different parts of your page at the same time. So if you wanted to work on two areas and look at one section and the other section at the same time, you can actually do that using the split. You can click remove split and that takes it out. If there was any add-ins, you would have them in here, and then of course under help you've got a couple of options here, including some training, which takes you to an online source that you can search for the quick start, and some basic options, how to use it, and other information as well. That's it basically for this tutorial. I hope you guys found it all helpful. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments below if there's anything else specifically that you guys would be looking for. Alright, thanks so much. I wouldn't be doing this without you. We'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.